Okie dokie. Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Miki, and I'll be presenting Cosmologid, a manual on personal branding. Well, nowadays, many people seem to be forgetting how to manage identity, especially after the rise of social media. And that's because I think probably most of these people know nothing about identity. In this way, Cosmologid is a wayfinder, a journey into the workings of human identity and a guide to online perception. What is identity anyway? How does it work? Or why does it even matter? Well, identity is the reason why we're all here today. It is a catalyst for human communication, and it works on several dimensions. First, a macrosocial dimension, then a microsocial, followed by a biological, and then ultimately a spiritual dimension. These are actually all intertwined and as equally important. On the first two dimensions, we'll see how identity is responsible for our survival as a species and the very creation of culture. In this way, identity has proven to be a very specific kind of survival, which I call survival through perception. As you may know, the human species is a social animal, one that has relied on cooperation to survive and thrive throughout history from the very beginning. Actually, it is 50,000 years ago when we start seeing humanity develop practices such as cave painting for the representation of beliefs and identity affiliations. We see this happening with makeup as well. Far from being adornment alone, makeup allowed Egyptians to convey holiness and status, and therefore identify different memberships within the Egyptian society. Other communities have also transmitted beliefs into symbology throughout history, like the Christians, Buddhists, Jews, Hinduists, or Taoists. Along with many, these develop visual systems to support spirituality, strengthen community, and create a shared sense of belonging. So, in this external layer, we see how identity helps us survive as a species, creating specific societal groups, as well as it allows us to create culture. Now, diving into the next dimension, we'll see how we're actually biologically designed to care about identity. But first, let me do a little throwback here. Some years ago, I was looking in the mirror when I realized I was being two people at the same time. There was me consciously watching and me consciously watched. So who was I really? It was very confusing. However, according to evolutionary psychology, our brain is hardwired for empathy. And the fact that we're able to decode appearance and behavior into specific ideas of who someone is or how someone might feel or think explains why it is natural for us to be concerned about the ways and mechanisms through which others perceive us. So remember the example of the mirror from before? Well, it appears it's been quite a thing for a long time. It is called reflexivity, and it explains our vision of ourselves from the standpoint of others, meaning perception changes in the eyes of the beholder. So Miki won't be the same Miki in his mother's eyes as the Miki he will be in his teacher's eyes. And therefore, Miki will act as a different Miki and feel as a different Miki and actually become a different Miki depending on the person in front of him. In this way, in a social world, being one means being many. Why is this interesting though? Well, the thing is that whether we like it or not, we do live in a social world. And in this social world, human relationships are strongly built upon trust, which speaks the language of perception. That's why creating genuine perception is key, but also pretty complex. Why? Because authenticity can work as a tricky paradox. As much as we try to become unique and differentiate ourselves from others, we also try to fit into society by conforming to some sort of social convention. This is completely natural though. In fact, our brains experience social rejection the same way they experience physical pain. So that tells a lot about the way we function. What does all of this mean? Well, basically that we are like Lego, made by pieces. We add and take to present ourselves in front of others and create a desired perception of who we are. We do this because we need to connect. We need to call the attention of those who are similar to us. Remember, we have this biological imperative to connect and affiliate through empathy. The more accurately and effectively we code selfhood and present ourselves, the better. So how do we increase these chances? Easy, by playing the game of perception, adding and taking layers that speak of who we are. Among these layers, we change the way we're perceived with the clothes we wear, the sports we play, the way we laugh, the way we speak, or the people we hang out with. All of these layers provide information about us and speak of who we are. But recently, a brand new layer has come into play and changed everything. This is social media. This new layer can actually be pretty amazing. It breaks the boundaries of online communication and allows people to come together on a date like this, where COVID doesn't let us join face to face. But social media is just a tool. And as with any other tool, the user always remains accountable. Bad news is, it doesn't really seem as if we're handling it correctly. The same way our body becomes what we eat, our mind becomes what we consume. And social media is nowadays our top provider, one where the algorithm orchestrates the delivery of content. We keep on seeing how companies compete to enhance the algorithm just to keep us on our screen for as long as possible and make profit out of our time. Influencers have literally become a return of investment. And because of this, human identity has become an online product. It's sad, but our current use of social media is far from ideal. It is creating a lot of polarization, crafting identities empty of quintessential meaning, increasing depression in younger generations, segregating families, and affecting the way we think, feel, and communicate. Biologically speaking, we're designed to care about perception and how others see us. And the pros of social media is that it has the power to manipulate this perception. As a result, online platforms like Instagram can become dehumanizing. They turn people into products and give us a false sense of choice, distorting freedom and causing polarization based on commercial interests. At the end of the day, we have an inherent need to express who we really are. And sometimes things like social media don't really allow us to reach this dimension of our identity, where our spirit dwells. Now, there's actually a way out of it, and it's called branding, a way to regain control over identity. According to Debbie Millman, branding is the most profound manifestation of the human spirit. And she is right. Branding is the humanization of consumption, the opposite of social media. It is the way through which we give goods and services a personality. In this way, organizations can connect with customers on an emotional level to create loyalty. How? By giving products human characteristics like name, tone of voice, or a personality, which makes this kind of phenomenon happen. A detergent becomes Mr. Proper, and cereals become Fruit Loops. But how do we make branding work? It's as simple as complicated, through trust and consistency. Why? Because that's the only way for identity to feel authentic in people's minds. Branding is ubiquitous, and for a brand to fully work, it must deliver a promise. In the case of Disney, it is a promise of magic. Why do we trust Disney? Why is it becoming a monopoly? That's because Disney has been able to develop a solid identity and deliver magic throughout all of its platforms at all times, from their merchandising to their theme parks and castles, and through all of its movies, whether, in this case, The Beauty and the Beast in 1994 or in 2017. Same title, same movie, same magic, same essence, just a different format and a different public. That's the actual power of branding. It is three things. It is transformative, diversifying, and preserving at the same time. It is the power to create and sustain meaningful identities. Now, going back to human identity is actually no different at all. It's pretty similar to branding identity. Identity is malleable. Its format changes, but its essence always remains. Looking at the bigger picture, we can clearly see how managing all of these dimensions can be sort of a challenge and a bit chaotic at a glance. That's why my purpose with the book is to help people understand identity through each one of these dimensions. So with the humanizing power of branding, they can align these layers and they can find meaning in who they are, as well as learn how to present themselves successfully on online platforms. So a bit more about the design. Now, if you'll let me, I'm gonna hand you the book so you can actually touch it and feel it, because feeling it is important. You guys can't touch it, but I'll be showing you the pages. A bit about the design approach toward the book. These are different sections that I'm going to be discussing right now, starting with the name. I wanted to regard the multiple forces affecting identity at all times. That's why I chose Cosmologid. Cosmology is the science that studies the cosmos, which as identity is in constant expansion. Both identity and the cosmos are dynamic and are affected by multidimensionality of invisible forces. Regarding hierarchy and content, I helped myself with two typographic styles. First, sporting grotesque. This quirky and unconventional sans serif will give the book a spark of personality. Used for section and part openings, spread highlights, conclusions, and takeaways, sporting will work as a wedge between solid chunks of body text. On the other hand, I used Avener for body text, subtitles, or footers, providing large amounts of text with cleanliness and legibility. Stepping into content and personality, the book will carry the reader across the history of identity, its paradox, branding, and ultimately a manual on how to craft meaningful and genuine online perception. Using a brutalist style, the book will seek a blocky appearance, having text and elements very close to the margins, using a one-by-one grid system and resembling, therefore, online identity under the rules of algorithmic logics. The book composition and overall layout will create a dynamic read flow in X, while the presence of watercolors will remind us of the human spirit, liquid, free, and not fitting into the algorithmic logics that I mentioned before. This technique was actually carried out with leaves and on a white canvas. Afterwards, I digitally scanned them for their application on the book, and that's how you can see them now printed out. Throughout the book, watercolors will not only break tensions or suggest the presence of the human spirit, but also serve as a guide through color coding. Using blue, green, and red, this technique will make the read flow and navigation a more intuitive and pleasant experience. Going back to content, the book will initially feature opinions and comments from previous readers. Following this, we'll find preludes before some of the sections. Preludes are these short introductions to parts and sections by experts in each corresponding field. These experts have actually read the book and will help future readers in three different ways. 1, presenting the topic clearly. 2, provoking interest. And 3, providing a seal of quality. In this way, the book has a bit of many other people. From sociologists to brand managers, through computational designers and digital humanists, the main concept of the book will be full of images, graphics, and real cases. On top of it, each section is followed by conclusion pages, summarizing its score, and by takeaways. All of it so the reader can easily revisit the section's most important insights without having to reread the entire thing. Now, stepping into the manual, this will include exercises for the reader to start crafting effective personal branding. Scrutinizing Wally Allen's methodology, I translated conventional branding into an easy and friendly manual. Throughout part 3, where you can find the manual, the reader will go through 4 different activities that will help them rediscover themselves and create meaningful online perception. Lastly, I wanted the book to be accessible and present in a variety of different formats. This is the coexistence of the offline and the online. That's why I have a physical format book that fits into your pocket and can accompany you as much as your phone and your social media. On the other hand, I kind of created this hybrid bridge between the online and the offline. This is the poster. The poster reflects the dichotomy between the digital realm and our online personal sphere and how the line between both is starting to blend. The QR code shows how our identity is stealing the show, invading the physicality, invading the canvas, and how it coexists with our spirit. If you scan the code, you'll be taken to this is a process that I underwent to create what you're gonna see now, which is bringing watercolors into movement. But by scanning the code, you'll be taken to the websites. Here, you can read more about the project and actually contact me in case you'd be interested in a copy, whether digital or physical. Additionally, I created some Instagram posts to spread the word on social media. Here you can see how the spirit is coming out of the book. And it's not, secluded within the boundaries of the page. These posts aim to give a glimpse of the book's content and showcase some of its pages, including parts of the manual and even the poster. Now, to wrap up, I want to clarify, this is not a manual on how to become an influencer. Cosmologid is way more than that. Cosmologid is a journey, a project that explores the intricacies of human identity and proposes a guide to craft meaningful online relationships. Thank you.
I think you had, the book was square, right, in the beginning. I think it was a good decision to end up with a more vertical format, because for a book, it's definitely more easier to read. And I was going to ask, why did you feel the need of having a book, a physical book? Because you also have the website, and because you're talking about social media, why was it so important to have?
Hello, I couldn't hear the last part.
I'll repeat it. Joana asked me why did I go for a physical book, and I answered that I left that in the hands of the users. I threw a poll on Instagram, and users actually wanted a physical book, so I took their word into account before making the actual book.
Okay, thanks, Miki. Okay, so it's my turn. Yeah. Okay, great. So I think first of all, Miki, I want to give you congratulations for the way that you explained your project and the way that you transmit all the concepts, because design at the end of the terms is something that you need to show with the different books, posters, all that applications. But for me, the key in your project has been the way that you explain the concept, the way that you go so deep into this I think that reality that is happening nowadays, and that we, all the designers and all the people that we are thinking around and thinking about communication, we need to stop and to think in this kind of problems and of communication things that are happening right now. I think that for me, the whole presentation was super nice, and the whole concept was amazing. It was like a master class for me. So congratulations again. And in terms of graphics and of design, I think that it's okay, but maybe it's something that with time you can have more and more details, or give like connect more the concept with the graphics, with the brand values. But I think that's super nice to explain the story that you were trying to explain, and I think that in that terms it works perfectly. So congratulations for your work, and happy to see it.
Thank you.
I wanted to say is that I agree with Diego, that you had a great presentation, and it's like, that's why I was asking about the actual physical format of the book, because I think that your presentation is so strong, the way you present, that I feel it's more engaging hearing you speaking than the actual book. So I think it might be something to consider if this could be a different format. I don't know, now we're all the time listening to podcasts, for instance. I don't know, something to think about, but I do think that the way you present is very strong, and it could be interesting to see how that could be translated as a project as well.